underdog. I've been through it all. I could never fall.
What's good, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of For the Underdogs podcast. I'm out here in Miami, Florida at the Next Chapter U event put on by the pro athlete community. And I'm super excited to be joined by Jason McCourty today. I spoke to you this morning.
Yes,
I had met your brother, reconnected with your brother in Scottsdale, and I had told him how inspiring you guys' journey is and what you guys been able to accomplish on the field as well as off the field.
Appreciate that,
And so
man.
I'm really happy to have you here today. But before all of that, man, you were a 6th-round draft pick, and you turned that into a 13-year career. And I'm sure there was ups and downs within that. So I kind of just want to get your perspective on your career and your outlook on all of those things.
Absolutely, man. 6th-round pick, 203rd pick of the draft. That's a lot of sitting around waiting. But for me, I tell people all the time, for me, being able to play 13 years was, number one, consistency. Some of it is always going to be luck of just being able to stay healthy. As a guy drafted at the end of the draft, you get hurt in training camp in a preseason game, like it's a wrap. It didn't matter your skill level, the numbers just don't add up. So number one for me was obviously the health part, but then just consistency. Every single day showing up, ready and willing to work no matter what the circumstances were. And it was cool because I got drafted that year in 2009. Kenny Britt was our 1st-round draft pick that year. Me and him were teammates at Rutgers. So you got to have self-awareness to know that we're walking in. Me and him been teammates for the last 3 years. We're in completely different situations. He's a 1st-round draft pick. He's gonna have opportunity after opportunity to screw it up or succeed, whichever one happens first.
100%.
I'm not gonna have those same opportunities. So once I was able to build consistency in my routine and to my ability on the field, the second thing that I tell people all the time, man, relationships. And that goes all throughout the building. So for me, it was relationships with a guy like Cortland Finnegan and Chris Holt, who are my two kind of big brothers and leaders on the team and mentors. I just watched everything they did and asked them a ton of questions. The next thing is relationships with your coaches in the building, but then everybody else in the building. Once I retired, I got a chance to really see it when you walk back into a building and the same coaches are there, the same general manager, the same support staff, the same custodians and janitors cleaning the building.
That's right.
And those were people that you had conversations with over the years. Man, it goes such a long way. But you just talk about the ups and downs. In Tennessee, in 8 years, I was 2-14. I was 3-13. I go to Cleveland for an 0-16 season. Then I win the Super Bowl the next year. And I tell people all the time, probably the craziest memory I have of just starting out in the NFL is you go through training camp. And I remember being at the rookie symposium and Mike Tomlin was like, rookies, you walk in the building, shut the hell up. Don't say anything. Just listen to the people around you. The next thing, on your best day, it wasn't that good. On your worst day, it wasn't that bad.
That's right.
And I remember going through training camp and trying to keep that in the back of my mind. And I'll never forget that weekend, the last weekend of preseason when all the cuts happened. In Tennessee that year, we used to keep the guys in the building when cuts would go on. So you had guys playing Madden, guys. Me and Kenny Britt are hiding out in the players' lounge at this point. I don't know why the hell Kenny hiding out. He ain't going nowhere. He's just there for moral support.
You feeling that pressure, though.
I'm feeling the pressure. And that was after having a good preseason, but you just don't know how the numbers are going to stack. And I remember you see guys getting tapped on while they're playing Madden. Like, hey, listen, man, Coach Fisher needs to see you. And you know, like, it's a wrap. So I remember going through that was a Sunday. And then we go out into our indoor facility after all the cuts are down and we do like a dynamic warm-up and our stretch lines. And all throughout training camp, it's 90 guys. So in the cornerbacks group, I'm 8th in line. There's 7 guys in front of me on the depth chart. And you can just go down position to position of just a stack of 9 to 10 guys in every row.
That's right.
You go in there after that last cut, it's 53 guys. And it was just a realization. I remember David Thornton on the team, who's now the player development guy in Indy, said to me, never forget this feeling. Because you're looking around and like, this is the other side of the NFL that nobody talks about.
Yeah, it is a surreal thing. You talked about relationships that you build with people. I think that was something that was eye-opening for me post-career is, you know, you get cut, you have things that work out not in your favor, things that go in your favor, but you don't know in the moment or how you're handling yourself, you know, in those people's eyes. Do they see you as a professional that handled it the right way? I think one of the most surreal things to me was people that reached out to me after I got done playing and appreciated the way that I handled myself. And I try to help guys with that. Like, you don't know who is in those buildings. When you get cut or you get benched, do not walk around there with the worst attitude in the world, because post-career, if you may need something, those people are going to remember that you were that guy that acted that way. So I think that's super important about the relationship piece.
And not only post-career, I remember being on the sideline and we had a young DB who got pissed off about something, and he's cursing people out all along the sideline. You got young scouts back there, and then you have like a quality control coach who's low on a totem pole, and he was a rookie or a second-year player, and I pulled him aside. I was like, you don't realize that scout standing back there, like you talking about post football.
Yeah.
I said your deal will be up in 2 to 3 years. That dude might be a GM somewhere, and he's going to be interested in signing you, and he's going to remember this interaction, and he's going to wonder in the next 2 or 3 years, did you grow, or is this just who you are? So how you represent yourself in the building is so important, not only to your point of just obviously representing your family and your name the right way.
For sure.
Like, you don't know where these people are going to be in the next 5 to 10 years, and how you can benefit and help them and how they can help you. So it's a thing that sometimes when you're young, it just goes over your head because you're so caught up in however you're feeling in the moment.
For sure.
To try to remove yourself and look at it, man, the league is a business.
It is.
And Jay-Z said in his song, I'm not a business, I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
And the sooner we can realize that, the sooner you can take advantage of it.
Yeah, I love that. So we talked about a 13-year career, and the game comes to an end for all of us. What did that look like for you in terms of transitioning out of the league? I think everyone sees the success that you've had and your brother has had within the broadcasting and the television and off the field things that you guys do.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that there had to be some sort of doubt or uncertainty around what am I going to do next? Can you talk about what that process looked like for you?
Yeah, the thing that made it a little easier for me to walk away was I felt like, hell, I couldn't cover nobody anymore if I wanted to. So it was just like, the league don't want me no more. But it was like a slow drip where I had my 10th year in New England. I had one of my best years of my career, and we won a Super Bowl. That next year, I come back for year 11, and I'm having a better year in 19 than I did in 18. And I ended up getting a sports hernia when we're 10 or 11 games in, and ended up coming back that next year for year 12. And like I'm looking in the mirror and I'm just talking to my wife like, it ain't the same out there. I can remember playing Denver and I'm at corner and Jerry Judy's lined up across from me.
Young guy.
And I'm playing off coverage and he sticks me outside and then runs a dig and comes across. I do a whole 360. Next thing you know, I'm on like Twitter and I see I'm on Jerry Judy's little and one mixtape of getting crossed up.
That's
and I'm just like, it's coming to an end.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the way 2020 went for me, the way I played, and I was coming off of surgery and all of that. So I poured a ton into 2021 and I was hoping to get on. And Brian Flores was in Miami and they brought me in and I was fired up because I knew most likely that was going to be my last year unless I just had one hell of a year and couldn't walk away. And I ended up tearing the Liz Frank in my foot like 6 or 7 games into the season.
Wow.
And mentally, that was tough for me. And a lot of times you try to take a step back and say, well, man, you got 13 in, like, you should be grateful.
Yeah.
But in the moment, like, I'm not trying to hear that. Yes, to somebody that didn't get 13 in, but like, I worked my ass off for these 13 and I put a lot into it. And in my head, it was just like, you only wanted one more. And like, I was here, the opportunity, I've worked for it. And for a little while, it was just like, why me, why now? And I was feeling sorry for myself. And the good and bad thing was I had that time throughout the rest of that season where I was still in the building a little bit, but home a little bit more. I started reading some of just trying to figure out like, all right, what am I going to do? What's going to be next? And I had those few months to kind of wallow a little bit to kind of figure out like, all right, I got to see what's going to happen. And it wasn't pro athlete community at the time, but I was here in the Miami Dolphins and Caleb Thornhill, who started PAC, was here and he was a player development guy. And we had a business combine. That was the end of February, March. And I remember being at that business combine. And at that time, I had one foot, maybe a pinky toe that was still in the league. Like, let me see how this rehab going to go. And the other side was like, man, let me really lock in while I'm here. So do I want to do real estate? Do I want to do venture? All of these different opportunities. And it helped me. One thing Caleb always talked about was a growth mindset. And it helped me to kind of just transition my mind forward. And that was in the beginning of March. mid-April, the NFL puts on a broadcast boot camp. So I had been doing a podcast with my brother for the last 4 years. I had hosted a radio show. So I had did a lot of media type stuff. Wasn't sure that was the path I wanted to take, but I signed up for the boot camp, went out there and crushed it. Ended up coming out of the boot camp with different people exchanging info. And the next thing I knew, in a few months following the boot camp, I ended up with 3 different job opportunities. So that was huge for me from a confidence standpoint. And just like my biggest fear with walking away from the game was idle time. And no matter what we do while we're playing, every person has fear of walking away from the game, because what am I going to do to fill the void that football has created since I was 10 years old? Right. So it was just like, for all of us, we can have all of these different things set up, but when I walk away, I can't go play pickup football. Like, it ain't like you can go to the local YMCA and play basketball or join a softball league or something of that nature. So that door has to be completely shut. So what helped me a lot, I think, was I retired in July, and the next week I accepted a job for NFL Network with Good Morning Football. So it allowed me to pour into a different passion and chase that. And that doesn't come without lumps, because there was a point between my wife's looking at me like, I thought in December, like, my birthday's the 13th, we was gonna go on a little vacation. I'm like, but it's football season, like, we got another. So like, even figuring out that dynamic of being home more, what's the balance of pouring into this next part of my life, but also making sure my 3 kids and my wife, they're getting dad and husband home more to pour into their life as well.
How do you balance that? How do you balance being a dad, a husband, a brother, a son, with also the schedule of, you're essentially on the road as well. So how do you balance that?
It's a continued work in progress, I would say. I've had to give myself grace. Getting into the media part of it, I've treated it exactly like football. So I over-prepare, and I want to make sure I know everything I have to know about, whether I'm calling a game, whether I'm going into the studio. And I've had to dial it back a little bit to say, like, all right, if I'm at home and my son is trying to show me something, or just simply he plays football and there's film of it, my wife will record it, of sitting down and making sure I'm pouring into him and giving him what I have. Or my 2 girls, if they're doing tumbling, am I sitting there spotting them and making sure I'm intentional about that time being spent with them? So I don't have a perfect equation. I will say I married my best friend, and somebody that is willing to challenge me in every phase and doesn't have a problem saying it to my face. So like, when I am off balance, my wife will 100% call me out on it, and that's been beneficial. So I think it's continued conversations between the both of us. I went from doing a show on Good Morning Football that was 5 days a week all year round with just 4 to 6 weeks of vacation. So that show ended, and then I started traveling for games every week. And so it's just like, now I'm getting more time in the off season, which is awesome. But during the season, I'm traveling for 18 weeks, so I'm missing all my son's football games. So like, as a parent, you're always trying to figure out, like, am I doing a good job? Is this enough? Do I pour into that? So it's just a continued work life, personal life balance that you're always trying to figure out what's the right kind of amount of time spent in both.
I love that. That's good advice. How does broadcasting fill your cup as far as leaving the game? We all want to be around it in some sort of fashion. How does broadcasting fill your cup, and what is your favorite type of broadcasting to do? Because there's many different types.
Man, I love football. And I tell my kids, I do a free camp every year. The game of football has given me and blessed me with so much, that the fact that I get a platform to go on TV and highlight a guy and talk about a game that I fell in love with, like that, I'm so passionate about the ability to do that. It also gives me a passion and a craft to work towards. I'm not the best, so I got to go to work and try to improve and watch other people and build off of some of those things that they do. So for me, broadcasting, coaching, the time commitment I couldn't commit to that. So this was the next best thing. I'm sitting down in meetings with head coaches, different quarterbacks, and I'm getting to ask Lamar Jackson questions of film I'm watching. And when I go home and tell my son, who wears his Lamar Jackson jersey, who has a Ravens blanket on his bed, that I was sitting down talking to Lamar Jackson, like his eyes light up. So like, I also see the ability of what it does for my kids as well. my favorite part of it, man. So what I love, the studio and the games, and it's hard for me to pick one of them. I've been able to do both, and I'm going to do that as long as I possibly can. But there's something special about being in a stadium, about the crowd cheering, although they ain't cheering for you, but just being in that atmosphere and seeing it and having when you're calling a game, it's much like playing where I can prepare all week. As soon as that ball is kicked off, I have no idea what's going to happen in the game. And every single play, when the play-by-play finishes, I got to have something to say. And it has to be something worthwhile to say. So I love that part of it, the anxiety that you get from it, the anxiousness and the nervousness to have to deliver. And then in the studio, man, it's just a fun atmosphere to be around guys and bring energy. I got a chance to work with Orlovsky on ESPN this year.
He's great.
Oh, he's awesome. Being on
great.
Good Morning Football with those three, Jamie, Peter, and Kyle, like, you got to hang out with, like, we became like 4 best friends just talking ball every day. So I've just fell in love with the broadcast and stuff and just trying to continue to grow with it.
Man, I love that. What do you want your legacy to be outside of football? I feel like you and your brother do so much. What does Jason McCourty look at life in the grand scheme of things? Obviously, you're a father, all these different roles and things, but what do you want your legacy to be?
Man, so many things go through your brain when you start thinking about legacy. I remember Tony Evans says something in a sermon that Dev repeats to me all the time. And it's just when blessings come to you, you don't want them to stop with you. You want them to flow through you. Ooh. So when you talk about legacy, like, that's something that I try to live by, where it's just whether I'm doing broadcasting and somebody comes up to me and they're like, hey, yo, I'm just walking away from the game and I want to figure out how to get into it. I want to be a point of contact for that person, whether it's the sickle cell work that Devin and myself do with our Tackle Sickle Cell Fund and Foundation. I want to be able to give back because I've watched my aunt suffer through that disease. I watched an uncle suffer through it. My father had the trait. I want to be able to give back. Crazy. And bring awareness to that as well. I want to do a free football camp every year, and the same thing goes with my family. So for me, the legacy is, you always talk about, like, you want people to remember you for how you made them feel when they were around you, when they got to touch you, and all of those different things. So for me, it's just, man, doing your best at every single thing that you do. I remember my college coach said to us, you don't define success about how many years you played in the league. I could play 13, you could play 3. But if you can walk away and know that you gave maximum effort and gave everything you had, like, that's success. And how you redefine success as you move through life and you're knocking down goals that you have, like, that's something that, for me, legacy is what you're passing down to your kids, not only monetarily, but also just from a standpoint of their vision of life that's going to propel them forward.
That's impactful. Obviously, we're here at the PAC event, and there's a lot of guys trying to figure out what and where they're going to do, what they're going to do next. What advice would you give to those guys who are in that space of, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this. I don't really know if there's a lane for me. Can you speak to those guys that need that advice from you?
Take a breath. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. I learned that in my playing career. I get drafted to a team where we didn't win. I never won 10 games, didn't make the playoffs. I have an identical twin brother who gets drafted the very next year, and in his second year, he's playing in a Super Bowl, wins 3. So totally different lanes of success, and I had to learn early on, like, comparison is a thief of joy. So for guys, when you walk away from the game, don't look away. Don't look at somebody that's highly successful as soon as they walk away and compare yourself to them. Just worry about yourself. So take a deep breath. Give yourself grace to figure out exactly what you want to do next. But then also, like, dive into things. Like, don't sit back. And one of the hardest things as professional athletes, for damn near all of our life, somebody is doing something for you. I realized it during COVID, where I'm in Miami and you got to get a shot or whatever. You got to go get Pfizer or Moderna or whatever the things are. And I remember talking to our trainer, and my wife had to do it, and she was like, you want me to set it up for you? And I was like, nah, I could do it. And it was just like, well, nah, most guys don't really know how to go on. Like, we don't know how to make doctor's appointments.
That's real.
Like, something that's so simple to a human adult in life. When you're on a football team,
it's done for you.
When you're sick, you don't call out. Like, you go in, you see the trainer, and they set an appointment up for you. You walk right in the doctor's office, you see him, and you leave.
That's real.
So some of the simple things we just haven't been forced to do, and it takes a little bit of time to give yourself grace to figure those things out. But once you figure something out, once you've done some research, we're here and people are learning about real estate, entrepreneurs, venture capital. Like, take the time to educate yourself and then dive in and take small risks to see what it is that you're passionate passionate about. When I first dove into broadcast, I didn't know if I was going to like it or not.
Yeah.
And if I didn't like it, it was like, all right, well, now I can check that off the list and move on to the next thing that I feel like I may be passionate about. Because for so many years, we've chased something that is so hard to attain that you have to put so much into it.
That's right.
So people always say the plan Bs. Yeah, everybody has a plan B.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I never planned on chasing that plan B unless I had to, because I was putting every single thing I could into making it in the NFL. So when you walk away, you got to close that door and be able to figure out what's next.
Yeah, take that breath and get out of your comfort zone. Really try new things.
Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's 100% right, man. I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. Like I said earlier, really inspiring what you and your brother do, and I'm inspired by you guys. So thank you for being on the platform, man. It means a lot.
Yes, sir. Anytime. Keep it up, bro.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, for the